Have you ever sat in front of the TV watching an Olympic sport that you've never heard of and thought, yeah, I can probably do that? Like, deep down inside, we all know that these are above average humans, but how far away are these athletes from the rest of us? And more importantly, which sports would you, the viewer, have the best chance of winning an Olympic medal in? We can begin by defining the physical attributes of the average male worldwide. The average male height is about 5 feet 7 inches or 107 centimeters with a weight of around 154 pounds or 70 kilos, a body mass index of 24.7 that falls into the normal weight category, and a body fat percentage ranging from 18 to 24%. In terms of physical performance, a healthy adult male could, in theory, run 5k in 25 to 28 minutes, 10k in 55 to 70 minutes, and a marathon in roughly the same time it takes to marathon a short Netflix series, which is around 4 to 5 hours. Which, let's be honest, is the type of marathon that most of us are actually able to finish. In terms of lifting, a male adult should be able to bench press 70 to 100% of its body weight, squat 100 to 150% of its body weight, and deadlift around 120 to 160 of his body weight. This means that the average male could bench press around 50 to 70 kilos, squat between 70 to 105 kilos, and deadlift 84 to 112 kilos. With this description in mind, we can begin to discard some sports purely based on physical attributes. Using this Kaggle dataset that contains information on Olympians throughout 120 years of competition, I graph the average height and weight athletes have in each Olympic sport. On the left side of the graph we have the usual suspects: basketball, volleyball, handball, rowing, tennis and swimming, which have the tallest athletes on average. If we take the worldwide average height of 1.70 meters, we would only have weightlifting and gymnastics. If we take the average US height of 5 foot 7 inches as 1.75 meters, our options increase to boxing, wrestling, diving and trampolining. It is important to remember that not every sport rewards height the same way, so we can push the high limit to 1.80 meters, 5 feet 9 inches, and then determine in which of these sports height has a major impact. One way to do this is by calculating the correlation between height and medal achievement and then graphing the results. This graph is an oversimplification of the height correlation to success, since each of these sports can have multiple events, but as we can see, the sports with a positive correlation to height, the taller you are, the better chances of you getting a medal, are the ones above the 1.80 meters line, and those with a negative correlation, being the sports where being shorter could be an advantage, fall below the 1.8 meters mark. Using this information, we get a short list of the following sports. But before we go on to discard some other sports in this list, we need to talk about luck in sports, since, let's be honest, we're gonna need a lot of it. It's a good debate, isn't it? People always talk about certain teams and players getting lucky, how the Patriots got lucky in 2015 despite making decisions at the 5-yard line that not even a 5-year-old would make in Madden. Whether it is a team getting the lucky side of a bracket, winning the lottery, drafting some future MVP in the 7th round, or taking ill-advised shots that end up saving the game, we can't deny that luck plays a huge role both in real life and sports. But is there really a way to measure the impact of luck in sports, and if so, which sport is the most luck dependent? In his book The Success Equation, Michael J. Mauboussin made these calculations for the NHL, NBA, MLB, NFL and the English Premier League to determine where each of these sports would fall on a luck to skill continuum, and here are the results. It is important to remember that this scale is not a reflection of the involvement of luck in a certain sport, but rather an indication of how well the sport measures the skill of its players. According to Mauboussin, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, a good way to determine if an activity is luck dependent or not is to ask yourself if you can lose on purpose, because if you can't do anything to lose, then it means that you can't do anything to win. Like when you flip a coin, or play at the slot machines despite what any Las Vegas 60-year-old says to convince you or themselves that playing in the same machine for 8 hours is some sort of strategy. I've actually been there before and I do not recommend it. The way that you calculate the impact of luck in these sports is simple yet brilliant. If we assume that the outcome of a match results from the contribution of both luck and skill, then in theory the contribution of a skill in a match should be the actual outcome of the game minus the contribution of luck. To perform the real-life calculation, you take the win-loss records of all the teams in, let's say, the NFL, and then create a new log-based win-loss record by randomly assigning a winner to each one of the matches of the season. Then you need to calculate the variance, the measure of how spread or scattered the values in the dataset are of both the actual and log win rates. The Pythagorean theorem of statistics establishes that if you have two independent variables, you can add their variances. This means that we can determine the variance of the contribution of log by subtracting the log win rate variance from the actual win rate variance. If we go back to the graph, we can see that hockey is the sport where log is the most involved, making it more unpredictable, and basketball is the one that better reflects the skill of the players. Now, there are many factors that explain this graph and why log might impact some sports than others, such as chances to score. The greater the number of scoring opportunities in the game, such as basketball, the easier it is for skill to emerge and be reflected in the score. Involvement of skilled players in the game. This refers to how often your most skilled player or players are involved in plays throughout the game. For instance, in baseball, your best batter can only hit once every 9 turns, but in football, the QB is involved in every single offensive play. Basketball enhances this even more since, at least in theory, all your players are involved in both stages of the game. Number of players, the more interactions you add to a game, the more chaotic it gets, preventing individual skill from having a significant impact. Basketball only requires 5 players, whereas baseball has 9 field players and football and soccer need 11. You can even see this discrepancy within different modalities of the same sports. I made the exact same calculations scraping data from both the solo and doubles badminton matches of the last 5 Olympic Games and found that skill accounts for approximately 23.5% of the actual variance in the solo category and approximately 18.8% in the doubles category. Individual sports allow for skilled players to dominate, much like in tennis, but skill shows even more when you're essentially competing against the clock as in swimming or running. With this in mind, we can tell that it would be easier to get a medal hiding behind, being a part of a larger team. On our list, we can consider the following sports: soccer, rugby, and field hockey. Soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world, meaning that you're gonna get plenty of competition and has an age restriction of 23, so we can cross it out. Rugby is one of the most forgiving sports in terms of physical attributes, allowing for a wider variety of players, but it is basically non-existent in the US, so we're gonna take it out as well. Last is field hockey, which apparently is one of the most expensive youth sports to practice, so we're gonna eliminate it as well. Speaking of expensive sports, sailing, equestrianism, golf, modern pentathlon, and fencing are considered some of the most expensive sports to practice, so we'll remove them. Just to give you an idea, this is how much it would take to casually practice each one of these sports. We can eliminate gymnastics because of the amount of skill it requires, since it doesn't matter if you are the same height as Simone Biles, you still need to be able to do this. The same thing goes to diving and trampolining, but if you generally feel that you can do anything like this or this, feel free to give it a try. Just remember, this isn't anything like your public pools in the summer or trampoline parks. Next up is weightlifting. The average man could compete in the featherweight 61 kilos or less, lightweight 67 kilos or less, or the middleweight 83 kilos or less category. As we said before, the average male weighs around 70 kilos, making the featherweight category the most feasible to compete in. If you remember, the average 70 kilos male or 154 pound adult should be able to deadlift 120 to 160% of its weight, which is roughly around 84 to 88 kilos. How much do you need to lift in the featherweight category? 145 kilos in snatch and 187 in clean and jerk, two positions that require way more strength and technique than deadlifting. Yeah, things do not get easier in the other two categories, so I think it's safe to remove weightlifting. Boxing, judo, and wrestling are contact sports which most people have an aversion to, so we'll remove them as well from the list. Another aspect that we have to take into consideration is the medal distribution by country in each sport, since if one of the sports is heavily dominated by an specific country, it becomes harder for an outsider to get a medal. I made this spreadsheet that shows the medal distribution of the remaining sports, and as we can see, we can eliminate table tennis since the average male would totally lose against an average 6-year-old Chinese girl, with the same logic applying to badminton. From this distribution we also get our first real prospect in shooting, since unsurprisingly it's an event that has been historically dominated by the US. If you take away our guns, you take away our gold. This leaves us with 3 possible options: athletics, archery, cycling and shooting. At the beginning of this video I posed the question: how far are we, the average Joes of the world, from the Olympians? Well, let's find out if I have what it takes not just to win a medal, but to make it into the Olympics in any of these sports. Also, I don't have a bow, so we'll have to settle with the other 3. Athletics encompasses a wide variety of sports such as javelin throw, pole vault, heptathlon, race walking and more. So, which one to pick? We can do the same thing as before and discard those events with taller athletes on average. As we can see, the events that involve throwing or jumping are the ones that benefit tall athletes the most, leaving us with an abundance of track events. In order to pick one, we can look at the requirements to get into the US Olympic team of that event and see in which one we have a better shot. In order to make it into the US Olympic track and field team, you need to meet certain criteria. Number 1, you have to be a new USATF member to enter US Olympic team trials. You need to be a US citizen and meet eligibility requirements. Athletes may qualify for the 2024 US Olympic team trials with the marks from indoor or outdoor competitions. In terms of qualifying standards, all athletes that meet the automatic standards will be qualified for the 2024 US Olympic team trials. The easiest part, of course, is to get the USATF membership that generally goes for around $55 for the individual adult membership. The USATF has more than 130,000 members that include the NCAA, NIA, Road Runners Club of America, Running USA, and the National Federation of State High School Association. Typically, 24 to 32 athletes compete per event in the qualifiers. In most cases, the top 3 finishers in each event at the track and field Olympic trials would qualify to compete in Paris. Finishing within the top 3 does not guarantee anyone a spot in the Olympics, as competitors must meet Olympic qualifying standards. The following table shows the event, automatic qualifying time, and minimum time athletes are expected to meet in order to get selected for the Olympic team. Now, out of all of this, I like my chances the most at the 5,000 meter category, since anything with a shorter distance is more speed related rather than endurance related, and I'm a better, sort of decent-ish long distance runner. This means that I need to be able to run 5,000 meters in 13 minutes and 25 seconds in order to qualify directly to the Olympics, so let's see how it goes. So I'm already in the park. Beautiful day, as you can see. I'm gonna keep track of the run with the Run Keeper app, so I'll see you hopefully in 13 minutes or less. As you can see, it took me about 35 minutes to complete the 5 kilometers, which is quite a lot. At a pace of 7 kilometers per minute, it is not enough. I essentially ran the damn thing in more or less 3 times the time it takes an actual Olympian to run this trial. So let's see how it goes with the next one. As I said, the USA has historically dominated this discipline. However, what does it take to join this distinguished group of sharpshooters? First and foremost, I'll be trying my luck at the men's air rifle event, since that's all I got, and the criteria goes as follows. The first step is to get a USA Shooting membership, which gives you access to USA Shooting sanctioned matches. In order to qualify for the team, members need to meet or exceed the national team qualifying ranking points based on the ISSF World Cup results over a period of 2 years, with the NT qualifying ranking points being the average 15th place score of the ISSF World Cups within the previous 2 years. So how many points is this? You need 627.03 points in order to make it into the men's air rifle event. The target consists of 10 centric scoring rings with a total diameter of 45.5 mm. The center of the ring, or the bullseye, has a diameter of 0.5 mm. The scoring system works as follows. Each shooter fires 60 shots. Each shot can score from 0 to 10.9 points, with 10 being the maximum for hitting the center of the bullseye. Scores are measured in increments of 0.1 for precision. The maximum possible score for the qualifying round is 654 points. So just as a quick recap, I have 60 shots in order to get 627 points. So let's see how it goes. So that right there is roughly the same size as an actual target. This are more or less 10 meters, and this is roughly the same time of air rifle. So let's see how it goes. Now, full disclosure, I actually used the scope that you can see in that air rifle, but not even with that I was able to hit the bullseye more than one time. I actually also had to divide both targets because otherwise the paper that I used was gonna get destroyed. I was not gonna be able to check how much points I made, so I divided the trial in two. In one of the targets I got 179 roughly points, and in the other one I roughly got 198, which roughly gives 377 points, which again, it's not enough. And last but not least, it's cycling. In this case, I'll be choosing the road cycling event to try my luck in. The time trial course for the Paris Games has a total length of 32.24 kilometers, about 20 miles, and is mostly flat. The starting point is at the Esplanade des Invalides, and then the route will take the riders out to the Bois de Vincennes, then back towards the finish line at the Pont Alexandre III bridge. It is estimated that most riders will complete the course in 35 to 40 minutes, so once again, let's see how it goes. Now, the cycling time trial took me around 1 hour and 11 minutes to complete, which is kind of bad if you consider that the estimated time for all competitors to finish is about 35 to 40 minutes. However, I don't think it's that bad if we consider that Google Maps estimated time to complete the route is about 1 hour and 19 minutes, so I think that I did okay, but it is still not enough. So, how far are we, the average Joes of the world, from the Olympians? Well, in my case, it's not even close. While some sports may seem more accessible than others, it's clear that each one demands dedication, time, and a lot of hard work. Whether it's keeping the pace in the 5,000 meter event, enduring the grueling challenge of cycling, or hitting the bullseyes in shooting, there is no easy path to Olympic glory. But with passion, perseverance, and dedication, who knows? You might just find yourself standing on that podium one day. So the next time you're sitting on the couch thinking, I could probably do that, why don't you give it a shot and see how it goes. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.